Afternoon adventurers. I'm here today with Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I've been hearing a lot of hype for the Abberant Mind Sorcerer, and as an avid Sorcerer player myself, I figured I should take a look. So what we've got is basically a Sorcerer who casts spells psionically, without material or somatic components. That's the idea. They cast with their mind and very little else, and that's pretty cool. They also get the ability to connect to another creature and speak telepathically with them for a few minutes, although you do have to share a language. This feels pretty limited. And they also get resistance to psychic damage and advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened at level 6. It's a pretty nice ability, can't complain about that. But otherwise the core of it is in psionic spells and psionic sorcery, your level 1 and 6 features. And that's really what I want to talk about, because the interaction between these two really forms the heart of this subclass, and together they're could be pretty potent. What psionic sorcery allows you to do is cast the spells you know from the psionic spells feature without verbal or somatic components or material components, as long as they aren't consumed by the spell. Which means you can cast without being seen, which is great for social encounters, as well as not being counterspelled. If you're against enemy spellcasters, if they can't see you, can't perceive you casting a spell, they can't cast counterspell against you. They can't stop that spell from going off. So you can pair that with spells like Dissonant Whispers or Tasha's Mind Whip, if you swap out for it, to cast against those spellcasters and take away their reactions, meaning they can't counterspell somebody else as well, or cast shield if they're being swung at by one of your martial friends. Overall, this is pretty good stuff, but it can be replaced by the subtle spell metamagic until you realize that psionic sorcery isn't itself a use of your metamagic, so you can stack other metamagics on top of it. Meaning you could cast something like Suggestion in a situation where maybe you don't want to be seen casting a spell, and also cast it as a twinned spell or an extended spell to cast it on 2 creatures or double its duration. Sorcerers have always excelled at casting spells in more ways, even though they get fewer spells learned than something like a wizard or cleric or druid preparing their spells. Metamagic gives us the ability to get more bang for our buck when it comes to spell slots. When you cast a spell that targets a single creature, you can make it target 2. No other class in the game can really do that. So being able to do that on top of casting as essentially a subtle spell allows the Abberant Mind to double down and really get some value out of those sorcery points. Now, thankfully, because of Font of Magic, we can later replace the sorcery points we spend by expending spell slots. So we hopefully shouldn't run into the issue that the Way of the Four Elements monk does, that the Way of the Four Elements monk has to spend key points in order to cast the spells or use the abilities from their elemental disciplines, but unlike this sorcerer, they don't have a way to get them back easily. They could take a short rest, of course. But the sorcerer, the Aberrant Mind, has the ability to cast spells, psionic spells, using their sorcery points, and then spend a spell slot to get those points back. So I don't think they would run into the same resource issue. As for the spells themselves, some of them are already primo, but the Psionic Spells feature does allow you to swap them out when you gain a sorcerer level. I'm doing this a lot with my hands, but that's fine. But some of these are already just worth having on their own. Things like Dissonant Whispers, Detect Thoughts is good, a bit situational, but good. And Summon Aberration I definitely want to touch on, because Tasha's is full of new summoning spells that summon a single creature that scales up with the level of spell slot you use to cast it. And the Sorcerer, even with the expanded list that Tasha's gives to the class, they don't get any of these summoning spells. Unless you're an Abberant Mind and you get Summon Aberration, or a Clockwork Soul and you get Summon Construct. So I would definitely not swap Summon Aberration out when it comes to Sonic spells, because having an extra creature on your side of the battlefield can only be a good thing, and being able to cast it as an extended spell means that you, the Sorcerer, get your summon for 2 hours instead of 1 for a single sorcery point. And Summon Aberration also comes with one of my favorite summons, the Slod, which has health regen, and that's huge when you have a creature that should hopefully be with you for multiple fights. The fact that it returns to maximum HP within a minute or so of a fight ending, depending how damaged it is, of course, and what level you cast it at, how much health it has. But the point is, it will return to full HP and be fresh and ready to go for the next fight. Now, the interesting thing about Sonic spells and Sonic sorcery, the thing that I really wanted to get to, is that they only provide benefit up to level 9 when you get your 5th level Sonic spells. After that, these features don't add anything to the class. And I think that's really interesting. The level 14 feature, Revelation in Flesh, which I think is good. It's a fast, easy way to, say, get a flying or a swimming speed, or escape from a grapple, or see invisible creatures. It's nice, but it has nothing to do with your psionic casting. It doesn't interact in any way with your spells themselves, except that you can stack spells on them because they don't require concentration. So, as for psionic spells and psionic sorcery, they're basically the core of the class for the first half of your levels, only up until level 9. And then the subclass just kind of doesn't really grow. Revelation in Flesh is very flavorful. It matches the sort of Far Realm Aberration flavor that the subclass is going for, but mechanically, it has nothing to do with your psionics. And while I think it's a good feature, it doesn't build on what the earlier level Abberant Mind features give you, which just seems very weird to me. And the same with Warping Implosion. Although Warping Implosion I also just think is a bad feature. It's essentially the 3rd level spell Thunder Step, just with a bigger radius, and it pulls in enemies that fail the saving throw. Basically, I feel like if I'm gonna be at least 30 feet away from my party, and also surrounded by enemies, I probably have a better move than to teleport and deal a really mediocre amount of damage. Actually, not even mediocre. 3d10 at level 18 is nothing. So all in all, this subclass has a weird duality between the first 9 levels of that psionic spellcasting and the latter 11 levels of just basically being a sorcerer. And I don't know if I would take this beyond level 9 or maybe 10. Level 10 to get another meta magic option. It's never a bad choice for a sorcerer. I have a character in Adventurers League that I play when I can, who's level 20. He's Fighter 11, Forge Cleric 9, and I think it could be interesting to do a similar build, but with Sorcerer instead of Cleric, because you could do things like quickening a fireball and then using your action to make 3 attacks. I think it would be a great way to get a lot of damage on your enemies. And this The Abberant Mind could be a good fit for that because, like I said, they get most of what they get within the first 9 levels. So that's all you'd really need for that really psionic, cerebral caster type. But with 11 levels of play for something like Sorcerer. Or Paladin would fit really well as well, being a charisma caster and smiting everybody. So I think this could be really good for a split class like that, but if split classing, multi-classing isn't really your jam, then I don't know if I would recommend the Psionic Sorcerer. I just think they don't get enough beyond level 9 to make it worth it. But anyway, that's my thought. Everyone's welcome to their own opinions, whether you agree or not, that's fine. If you play an Abberant Mind Sorcerer, and especially if you play one above level 9, let me know in the comments how that goes. I want to hear about it. If you watched the whole video, thank you. And if you learned something, or if you just enjoyed it, leave a like. And I'm planning to make plenty more D&D content on this platform, YouTube. And also, I've got a capture card that just came in. I'm planning to do some gaming stuff. I might do some like craft type variety videos. I don't know. Point is, I'm just getting started, and if you'd like to be here for it, please hit subscribe because the algorithm doesn't know me yet, so if you don't, you'll probably miss the next one. Thank you guys, thank you everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.